Hi, boys and girls. Welcome back. Today is Monday. So, we are on week 6 and lesson 11 today. It's hard to believe this time has gone by so quickly. Okay, today we're going to continue our study of matter and properties of matter. In the past, we have talked about shape and length, man-made materials versus natural materials, color, and today we're going to take a look at texture. And boys and girls, texture, it means how something feels when you feel it with your hands. Okay, before we do that, I'm going to need you to get a piece of paper and a pencil. You're going to trace your hand and you're going to write these words on each finger. So you're going to write rough, smooth, bumpy, sticky, and more than one. So you can pause this video now, get your paper and pencil, trace your hand, and write these words. Okay, so today's objective is we will define texture and recognize that it is a property of matter that can be observed and described. So we observe using our senses. And with texture, we're going to use our hands. You can even feel with your feet. If you were walking in sand, you could feel the texture in your feet. And it can be described. In other words, you're going to use describing words to describe it. All right. We're going to, now you're going to need your paper and pen. You're going to need your paper and pencil at this point. So we're going to look at this picture. This is called a hoodoo. And it's rock that sort of rose up. And this is in Bryce Canyon National Park. And if you notice, there are very rough areas and very smooth areas because it has rock and it also has snow. So a lot of times, boys and girls, you can describe texture using different words because they might have different properties. All right, we're going to explore a lot of different objects today, and I'm going to ask you to just put your finger on the property that you think, the word that you think describes the object the best. And there could be more than one. That's why we have the more than one section. All right, let's get started. So I have here a sponge. And this sponge is meant for cleaning, and this part is meant for scrubbing. So if you're scrubbing off food from a pan or a dish and you want to scrub it off, do you think this is going to be smooth or it's going to be rough? Well, if I take my fingers over the surface, I feel that it's rough. That means it doesn't have a nice smooth feel. Boys and girls, smooth would be like if you felt your hand and it's nice and smooth. Okay, this doesn't have this feeling. I could observe it using the hand lens. I can observe it further and I can come up a little close and I can definitely see that there's raised surfaces, and this is a rough item. So we're going to describe this as rough. Okay. I could come over to my plant, okay? And I'm feeling now, boys and girls, I'm going to feel the leaves, and they're nice and smooth. There's no bumps. It's not rough. This feels really good. So this is a smooth. We would describe this as smooth. Now we're describing the leaves in this case. So that would be smooth. Another thing, if we had this little plastic egg, okay? It's nice and smooth, okay? It's not bumpy, it's not rough to touch on the skin. Let's get something different. Let's try bumpy. So what is this, boys and girls? You've probably seen these lots of times, either on trees or on the ground. So this is called a pine cone, okay? And this, if I run my finger over it, it's definitely bumpy. It's definitely bumpy, but it's also rough. Okay, so it's bumpy and it's rough. So we could put it under bumpy, or we could put it under more than one. So it's more than one way to describe it. We'll just say it's bumpy and it's rough. Okay, let me get another one. We can use the seashell, okay? So the seashell, on the one side, it's rougher. But if you turn it over, it's smooth. Okay, it's nice and smooth on the one side and it's rough on the other. So we could say that this is also more than one. And let's go back to, okay, this is called bubble wrap. If you ever have to wrap something that's fragile, that could break, this you would place it inside. If this was a real egg, I could place this inside. And these little pockets are filled with air. So that's what makes, and if you can hear it pop, okay? On this side, it's bumpy. I can feel these little bumps all over it. So the way we would describe this bubble wrap is we would say that it is bumpy. Okay. All right, don't forget, you are pointing to the finger that you think describes this the most. And if it's not right, that's fine, because you're just going to take your best guess and we'll discuss why we're putting them in those categories. All right, this is a piece of bark, and bark comes from a tree, okay? And if you put your hand over, if you ran your hand over a tree, over the bark of a tree, would it be smooth or would it be rough? Would it be smooth or rough? Would you like your hands to feel like this, or would you like it to feel like the egg, nice and smooth? Well, I would think that I would like it to feel nice and smooth, not like this, because this is rough. So we would put this in the rough category. And another thing, we did rough, smooth, bumpy, sticky. So this is some jelly. So I just took some out of a jar. So this is some jelly, and I'm going to put my finger in and feel it. And it's very sticky. It's sticky. It has a high sugar content. Well, has a sugar content, which makes it sticky. So this is something that's sticky. So we would put it under the sticky category. The same with the maple syrup. You probably recognize this from another lesson we did. So the maple syrup, again, if I wanted to put my finger in it and I feel it, it's very sticky. So I'm going to put that in the sticky category. And I just have to wipe my hands because it's sticky and I don't want it to get on anything else. Let's go to another one. All right, if we have, now this is just a little bookmark, and this is my granddaughter, Devin. She made it, and on one side, it's nice and smooth. I don't feel any bumps. It's not rough. It's nice and smooth. But if you look at the edges, there are bumps. And if you look at the front, there are definitely bumps. And these little hearts and these little decals are rough. Okay, so this would be described, the decals are described as rough. The edges are described as bumpy. And the back is described as smooth. So depending on what you're trying to describe, if I describe the whole bookmark, I could use a couple different words. If I just wanted to describe the little heart decals, I could say that they're rough. But we'll put these in the more than one category. All right, which one didn't? Do a little more. All right, so this is called sandpaper. And if you can hear it. I run my hand over it so you can hear it. And sandpaper is actually used to rough up things, materials like wood, that you actually want to make smooth. So that's kind of odd that we use sandpaper, something that's rough, to make something smooth, but that's what we do. So this is certainly a rough material. If you put your hand over it, and you can smooth out an item and make it smooth using sandpaper. So this is what we would just call a rough item. So we would describe that as being rough. What about some other food? So a banana, this is not a real banana, but if you put your hand on the banana peel, it's nice and smooth. So we can say that this is smooth. Like our plant leaf and like our egg, it's nice and smooth. Another seashell. So if we go to this is a seashell, and it's different. It's shaped differently than our other seashell, but this is definitely bumpy. We'll call it bumpy, and it's bumpy on the other side as well. So we're going to say that this is bumpy. And boys and girls, what are we doing? We're describing matter. We're describing these objects. And why do we describe? Why do we use properties? So that you can understand, that you can know more about the object, and you can be very clear about what something is. The better you can describe it, the better idea you'll have of it. All right, let's see a couple more. Let me see. Oh, an English muffin. They call these nooks and crannies, but really they're little bumps in there. There's little air pockets in there. It makes the muffin nice and bumpy. So this is not really rough, but it is bumpy because it does have little bumps in it. So we will put that in the bumpy section. So you can see that some items, we can just call them rough or smooth or bumpy or sticky, but then a lot of items you can describe them using more than one word, and it's what part of the item you want to describe that determines how you're going to describe it. I thought this was interesting. It's a toothbrush, and the handle is nice and smooth, but the bristles are not. The bristles are going to be rough because you use your toothbrush to clean your teeth, and you don't want it to be too soft, otherwise it's not going to clean your teeth. So we could say that this is more than one. The handle, if we're describing the handle, we would say it's smooth. If we were describing the bristles, we would say that it's rough. So again, we would put this in the more than one category. So we're talking about rough, smooth, bumpy, sticky, and more than one. And it looks like we have a lot of items that are more than one category. And that's just the way it is. That's the way it goes. If we have, now this is interesting because these are fake pearls. But if I felt just one of them, it's nice and smooth. It's like this marble. It's nice and smooth, okay? But if I laid it out, so if I'm just talking about one individual pearl, I'm going to call it smooth. But if I laid them out, I could feel the whole string is bumpy. Like it would feel bumpy to your fingers if you were to investigate this. So we can also put this in, if it's the string we're talking about, we'll say it's bumpy. If it's just one individual, we would say it's smooth. So we will put this in our more than one category. So, boys and girls, you're building on your knowledge of properties, and you can see that we've already talked about shape and size and color. Now we're just adding different, more words to describe matter, and there's lots of different properties and lots of different ways to describe matter. And the last one I have for you is, this is a watch, and I like this one. This is an old watch, and this part is very smooth, but if you turn it, the band, it is bumpy. It is bumpy. It's not rough, but it is bumpy because it stretches and it has a little bit of, kind of goes up and down the metal. So we would put this in our more than one category. So, boys and girls, so what did we do today? We talked about, let's go back to our objective. We defined texture, and so texture is the way something feels. And we'll recognize that it's a property of matter, right? Properties of matter, like all of these, and it can be observed, right? You can use your eyes, you can use the hand lens, and you can describe them as we did today. All right, I hope you enjoyed this lesson. I will be back with you on Thursday. In the meantime, there is an assignment after this video. There are some little videos that you can watch, a couple short videos you can watch, and there's also an assignment. And that assignment is due on Sunday, May 24th by 12 o'clock, noon. Okay. All right. Thanks, boys and girls. I'll see you on Thursday. Bye-bye.